guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel, Books with Bree. Today I am going to be bringing you guys my June wrap-up where I tell you all of the books that I had to read throughout the month of June. This video will be split up into 3 segments: my physical books, my ebooks, and my audiobooks. I did end up reading 8 books throughout the month of June, so let's just jump into it and get into my thoughts. So the first book that I finished in the month of June was one I actually started at the end of May, and that is The Queen's Assassin by Melissa de la Cruz. I ended up giving this book a 4 out of 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. It invoked me to cry. But in the end, I truly enjoyed it, and I am definitely looking forward to reading the sequel, The Queen's Secret. This follows 2 characters. One is supposedly a common girl who is able to practice magic because she's living with her aunts, and her aunts know how to use magic and have taught her how to protect herself with it, but she wants to become an assassin in one of the royal guilds. But that cannot happen because her mother lives at court and wishes for her to come and live with her. And then we also follow the Queen's assassin, the son of the original assassin, as he goes on to try and finish this task that his father was set and unable to accomplish before his death. And these 2 characters' paths intertwine when the main character, the female main character, runs away from home the night before she is to leave to go live at court and breaks the male character out of this high prison so that he can train her to be an assassin as his apprentice. But of course she lies, and stuff just spirals as she follows him on his mission to restore magic to all of the people of their kingdom. I do recommend this for anyone looking for a YA enemies to romance that isn't too steamy and spicy, because a lot of the books I see being recommended as enemies to lovers nowadays are not for YAs. So this is a good introduction book into that fictional trope of enemies to lovers. So my second read from June was Her Royal Highness by Rachel Hawkins. I did give this book a 5 out of 5 stars. This is a sapphic romance following Millie as she leaves her small hometown to attend this prestigious boarding school in Scotland with a whole bunch of other royals from Scotland and England and Europe and all of these different characters, and the school kind of puts them on the same level with each other so she doesn't feel left out because she is the only kid there on a scholarship. And so as she is adjusting to the changes that Scotland has to offer her, as she's running away from her kind of sort of best friend, kind of sort of girlfriend who she caught kissing another person, Millie starts to develop feelings towards her roommate, who just so happens to be an actual princess of Scotland. So I just love the royal aspect, as you can probably tell considering this is the 2nd book in a row that has some sort of royalty trope in it. But oh, this book was amazing. I read it in 2 days, but this book had me sobbing at the end. I would not have had it end any other way. I think it did move a little slow pace in the first half, but it worked really well to build and develop the characters and the school and all of the different situations that had to occur for Millie to get into the situations that she is put into, and it just, oh, perfect. Please go read this if you are looking for a great sapphic read. Next, I read My Hero Academia Volume 6. This by far was my absolute favorite of this manga series so far. I have only read up to volume 6 and I enjoyed this one significantly more than the first 5. I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars and I would not rate it any differently. I think the character development was done really well and you were able to laugh while getting some very serious scenes. So I think if you're interested in starting a manga, this series is definitely for you. The last physical book that I read in the month of June was Archenemies by Marissa Meyer, and I have to say I gave this one a 5 out of 5 stars. It is the sequel to Renegades. Oh my god, it takes place just after the ending of Renegades and it shows more of a development between the relationships that Nova has with her renegade team and the kind of de-evolution of her relationships with the anarchists. And it's just so cool to see her character development and her kind of become her own person outside of this whole anarchist group that she's kind of just been raised to believe in. I did end up spoiling the ending of this for myself because I was about 50 pages away from finishing it and I got that like tight feeling in my chest, like I needed to know what happened, but I couldn't wait to read through another 50 pages. And so I googled a basic summary of the ending and then if I hadn't, I would have cried. Like I would have bawled my eyes out. So the first ebook that I read this month was actually Heartstopper by Alice Osman. I've been hearing about this everywhere. So I finally picked it up and of course I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. It was, in my opinion, one of the best reads I could have picked up for Pride Month. I loved it. I loved the development that we saw through the characters and it was definitely a quick read. I read it in about an hour and that was with interruptions and having to get up and go do stuff. But it was so good. I definitely recommend it for anyone who wants to pick up a lighthearted, little romance that's in a graphic novel style. I will definitely be picking up the following volumes that precede Heartstopper Volume 1. And then the other ebook that I did read in June was The Deal by Elle Kennedy. Now, I really enjoyed the romance. They are attending this college and Garrett has failed his philosophy midterm and what do we know? Hannah has aced it. And so Garrett proceeds to try and convince Hannah to tutor him for his makeup exam. And their relationship progresses from there. I did give it a 3 out of 5 stars, even though it made me cry. Mostly because there were some issues I had in there, specifically towards the mention of the main character being a sexual assault survivor and the way that Elle Kennedy presented that and used that throughout the book kind of made me really uncomfortable and didn't feel accurate or genuine in how she wrote it, because you don't have to be a survivor of that to be able to genuinely write a character who has experienced this. You just need to know and do a little research to understand the motives behind the actions that these survivors take, as well as a few of the different topics that she mentions in there, like domestic abuse and just a whole long list of trigger warnings that are not talked about. And I think that's really stupid, because I went into this expecting something lighthearted, a sports romance, because who does not enjoy a nice sports romance every once in a while. But I also knocked it down another star for the specific fact that Elle Kennedy has been brought out as lesbophobic. So I don't support reading her books, especially because that just contributes to her being able to push that ideal. But I did read this one before I found that out. Now on to the last two books that I read this month, which were both audiobooks from Kindle Unlimited. The first one I read was Evidence of the Affair by Taylor Jenkins Reid, who also wrote The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I loved this story. It was very short. I listened to the audiobook at like full speed, and it took me maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours to get through at most. It was so good. This book follows a wife and a husband of different people. The wife finds out that her husband is cheating and reaches out to the husband of the woman her husband is cheating on her with, and they start to write letters to each other to help them cope with what they know about their significant other. And it was just so cool to see their relationship develop through letters, because it is told through letter format, and it was so strange. Like, I don't think I've ever read anything that was in that format completely, and it was a really nice change of pace, and I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. The ending shook me. Like, it was insane. I loved it. And finally, the last book that I read and listened to in the month of June was actually my first book by Colleen Hoover, which was Regretting You. This book follows a mother and a daughter, Morgan and Clara Grant, as they try to deal with and grieve the loss of Morgan's husband and sister, and then which would also be Clara's dad and aunt. And the relationships that these two had with these two people come into huge speculation in their own eyes after some very, very disheartening information is revealed to Morgan right after the crash. I thought the book was so sweet. I cried so much. I very much understand now why people read Colleen Hoover books and say that they are amazing. I think Colleen Hoover has officially pushed Cassandra Clare out of my favorite authors spot, because Colleen Hoover is #1 now, and it's so insane because that was the first book that I've read by her, but I will definitely be picking up more. I have grown an affliction to the color orange because of this book. You will get the reference if and when you read it, or if you have read it. Oh, I love it. It was so sweet. And there is romance. It is very much a romance, and you get to see romance from the mother's perspective and the daughter's perspective. And it is so cool to see romance through the eyes of these two very different ages. Clara at 16 and her mom at 32, because her mom was about Clara's age when she got pregnant with her. I gave it a 5 out of 5. 100% do not regret that and will not be changing that. Alright guys, that was it. Those were the books that I was able to read through the month of June. I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you've made it to this point, thank you so much for watching. Please do not forget to like and subscribe and hit the little bell down below to be notified when I post a new video. I try to post twice a week, a vlog and a video like this where I'm just sitting down and talking to you guys about different books. So